Excellency, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, has arrived in the meeting hall. His Excellency, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, distinguished members of the Parliament, distinguished President of the University, distinguished members of the Protocol, distinguished academicians, distinguished audience. Under the auspices of Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, this symposium is being organized by Ankara University, and the topic of this symposium is an approach, a political and legal approach to the Eastern Mediterranean issues and the role of the Turkish Grand National Assembly in solution. But before, I would like to invite you for 1 minute silence to the memory of Gazi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the martyrs, and then please join us in singing the national anthem.
Sayın Türkiye Büyük
Distinguished Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, distinguished guests, in this symposium we are going to discuss the potential role of the Turkish Parliament in the solution of the Eastern Mediterranean issues from a legal and political approach. And we're going to listen to many experts. In fact, I hope this symposium is going to shed light on the developments that are taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Dr. Necdet Ünüvar, President of Ankara University. The floor is yours.
Sayın Türkiye Büyük Millet Meclisi
His Excellency, Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, distinguished Deputy Presidents, distinguished heads of the commissions, distinguished members of the Parliament, distinguished Deputy Minister, distinguished professors, distinguished guests. I would like to extend my best regards to each and every one of you. Energy resources are among the most valuable assets today, and that is why they are significantly important for the states. On the earth, these energy resources are limited, and oil and natural gas are among major energy resources. The Eastern Mediterranean has oil and natural gas reserves, and that is why it is attracting for many states, and it is always on the agenda of many states. So the countries which are neighboring the Mediterranean, in fact, and also those which are not the neighboring Mediterranean, are following up very closely what is happening there. 3.5 to 10 trillion cubic meters of extractable natural gas resource and about 3.5 billion barrels of oil reserves are there. So this is a very rich geographical area, and the regional countries can never ignore such an important area. Turkey is the country with the highest coastal line with the Mediterranean. That is why Turkey is significantly important, and Turkey is increasing its influence on the seas day by day, and its approach is always in favor of peace, justice, and equality, and it has been conducting its maritime activities accordingly. During the last 1 year, and also especially with the Libya consensus government, the agreement that was signed with the mentioned Libya government. These are the latest developments taking place in the area. In fact, at least in some of the states, we couldn't get the expected response to these developments. In fact, the purpose of some maps and efforts were just to limit and confine Turkey to the coast of Antalya. In fact, both Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus are claiming its rights, and at international platforms it is making and taking all the necessary initiatives in order to protect its and their rights. So with the engagement of all the players, the problems can be sorted out. Of course, the common sense says that the negotiations are the only way to sort out the problems, and by this way the regional countries can find solutions to their problems. So politics, geopolitics, and other fields are the fields where many studies have been conducted regarding this issue, and all these studies have created the scientific foundation. So for the maritime jurisdiction, it's necessary to consider many issues regarding mandates, jurisdiction, and it is necessary to make certain analysis. It's necessary to establish facts scientifically, and it is necessary to define the steps to be followed in the actions and processes. And there are many academic papers that are being produced in order to help this topic, and these are very important papers. Ankara University thinks every issue is its own issue. That's why it works accordingly. So, distinguished speaker, distinguished guests, Ankara University has a national center. Last month, in fact, our existing center regarding maritime law has been turned into a national center, and its name is DEUCAM, Maritime Law Research and Implementation Center. It has been converted according to the law in power, that is 6550. DEUCAM is a high-level academic institution in the creation of political decisions in its field. The HUCAM is going to play any role necessary. It will be an honorable role for itself. So the Turkish parliament is the highest platform where the issues of Turkey can be discussed. So it's important that we are discussing this issue, this topic today in the Turkish parliament. That's why I would like to thank our professor, His Excellency Mustafa Şentop, for hosting us today. So not only for Ankara University, but also for Turkey, that has been a very important event. That is why I would like to thank you very much. And I wish that this symposium will be very useful for everyone who will be following us. I hope it will be very useful and fruitful, and at the end of the symposium, we will be able to create important academic solution regarding the rights and entitlements of Turkey in the area, and also we will be able to show the potential role of Turkish Parliament in the face of these solutions. So both the members of the parliament and members of Ankara University, I'd like to thank you very much for all your efforts in making this event possible. Thank you very much.
Sayın Rektörümüze
We would like to thank the rector of the Ankara University for his speech. Distinguished guests, now I would like to invite the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Professor Mustafa Şentop, under whom this symposium is, under the auspices of whom this symposium is being organized. The floor is yours, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Distinguished members of the academia, distinguished participants, I would like to welcome you all to the symposium on the possible role of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey in solution of the Eastern Mediterranean issues with a legal and political approach, organized with the joint efforts of Ankara University, which is under the auspices of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. We are going through such delicate times, and therefore I would like to thank Professor Necdet Ünvar, the president of Ankara University, for contributing the organization of this valuable symposium on such delicate days. During the symposium, we will lend an ear to competent names, professors that are experts in their respected fields. They will be taking the floor to convey certain ideas and present certain opinions, and I believe their thesis, their messages will strengthen the hand of Turkey and overall strengthen Turkey. Distinguished participants, as you also know, irregardless of the topic in an international law subject matter, it is not possible to understand it independent from other topics, especially in a globalizing world. The solutions to global problems are to be global as well. Therefore, the Eastern Mediterranean, which is the topic of today's symposium, can only be understood and supported with solutions if we can understand its connotation with other subject matters as well. This is the only way forward from our perspective. The concerning parties are so many in number, and the region is an energetic one, which can give birth to certain tensions and conflicts between countries. This is why it has been ranking at the top of the international agenda. The the main reason behind this is the geopolitical position of Turkey. The survey and drilling ships are being launched by Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean, which brings this issue to our agenda very frequently. Even before such steps, there were problems again encountered in the Eastern Mediterranean, starting with the Cyprus issue, or the conflict between Israel and Palestine is another example of that. Syria and Lebanon issues in between the two countries are among the problems in the Eastern Mediterranean. The civil war in Libya, again, is a problem of the Eastern Mediterranean. Or coming to the territorial waters or the continental shelves, or dearmament of the islands and islets between Greece and Turkey are among the problems that can be discussed within the scope of Eastern Mediterranean issues. All these are because it is related to sharing of the ocean bed, the seabed resources, but also a population struggle. In countries like Libya that is enriched economically, the economic resources are to be pursued by other parties, and this gives birth to struggles as well. The imperialist powers, which are dissented by the Western countries today, still have an international and foreign policy which they struggle to continue at an international and global level. The problem is actually the fact that Western world is still positioning itself with old school ideas, and they cannot agree to the existence of new players like Turkey, like China, from especially East. However, this policy of the Western world is not only against Turkey, but also against emerging powers of the world, including Russia and China and so on. Today's issues in the Eastern Mediterranean are also in the agenda of the European Union. Today, they are gathering to take measures against Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean. With the provocations of the Greek Cypriots and the Greece, they have a limiting perspective for the Eastern Mediterranean. However, Turkey is the opening gate of the Eastern world to the rest of the world through the West. And the European Union is now in a position to make a decision. Just like European Union, which is now facing an identity crisis because of one of the major countries excluding from the EU. Now they are in a position to identify Turkey's position, whereas they should be taking their stance against what we take our positions to. It is once again to be reiterated that any agreement that will be against Turkey's interest will not be agreed on or signed. There is one thing that I would like to underline at this point, starting with the United Nations. Almost all of the international organizations are today facing an existential crisis that we all witness today. The easiest example of that have been witnessed for the Upper Karabakh crisis. It is an issue that United Nations presented open resolutions, and the MIS group under Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, they are failing in terms of competence, we can say. International organizations, in a way, are not trying to solve international problems, but actually, on the contrary, preserve the conflicts as they are, to use them when the need arises. And Upper Karabakh crisis is the biggest example to that. International organizations, when they fail their duty to solve problems, they fail overall, and this has been being discussed for a long time. The will of international organizations to solve such problems is also disputable. The conflicts, the problems, the wars, political and diplomatic conflicts. Among all these problems, right now we are facing the necessity to establish a new world order. The organizations of the 21st century, together with their paradigms, are now about to complete their life cycle. Upper Karabakh problem indicates once again the current status of the international organizations, why they are not functioning, why they are failing, and what their future will be like. So it is an important example, we can say. Upper Karabakh is the territory of Azerbaijan, and Armenia is the occupant power in the territory of Azerbaijan. This is such a crystal clear fact that those who side with Armenia, those who support Armenia logistically and ammunition-wise, even they cannot deny this fact. United Nations has already made resolutions on this matter, and such fact has been acknowledged by United Nations. The Organization for the Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, also made decisions for this, for the MILS group as well. And France, Russia, United States of America, these are gathering for the solution of this problem, so-called. So, who can act as an arbitration? Who can act as a mediator? The countries, have been selected so far, but it's been 30 years, and the problem is still not solved, and no reasonable step has been taken for the solution of this issue for the last 30 years. For the demonstration of international law, these organizations exist. To apply the international law, these organizations exist, but they can still not take a step for the real solution of the problem, whereas the solution is obvious. The co-chairs of Minsk Group under OSCE claim to be impartial, but they logistically support Armenia, the country that is occupying another country's territory, and support that country with arms and ammunition. I'm not blaming the international organizations as well. Maybe the real will that should run the international organization is already disabled. The co-chairs of Minsk Group on one hand say that Azerbaijan is righteous and we will solve this problem, but on the other hand they are helping Armenia with arms. An organization that should solve a crisis is actually preserving the status quo. They are stalling everyone and trying to preserve the existing situation as it is. On the other hand, the president of France in an NGO states that Upper Karabakh is the territory of Azerbaijan, therefore we cannot openly support Armenia, he says. And the French parliament does not call for Upper Karabakh, and they decide independently to recognize the independence of Upper Karabakh, which is not considered to be belonging to Armenia. But still, a co-chair of an organization is not resigning. No one can think of this. So in short, the international organizations and also the rules of 21st century are not functioning. They are not made to function. These organizations are not serving to international law, peace, and welfare. They are trying to continue the international ruling, the status quo, the current organizations as it is, and they play jurisdiction, they play jurists in the name of peace. And they are continuing these efforts, which again indicate that this problem is a paradigm which is everlasting. How can we solve this problem? When Azerbaijan wanted to solve the issue on its own and take the matters on its hand, the problem solved immediately on its own. So in the face of this problem, we once again understand that the pro-status quo powers are not actually capable of reaching an agreement. The possible solutions are only left on paper, but the reality does not exist as it is. In Quran, Holy Quran, there is the Sede Surah, which talks about the death of Prophet Solomon. And I would like to quote an important sentence. Prophet Solomon dies, but still his death is not recognized by anyone around him, and for a while, although dead, he stood still, standing with the support of his cane until one worm ate the cane, walking stick, and then it broke, and then he fell down, and only after that the Prophet Solomon was understood to be dead. And although dead, the international organizations today are still standing and taking support from their walking cane, walking sticks, which means that they are not strong enough to stand on their own feet. The same reality can be found in every other reality around the world today. In Libya, for example, the government recognized by United Nations is being recognized by everyone, but starting with France, some countries are helping the opposition powers against that recognized government. And the President Macron, on one hand, talked about criticism against Turkey for democracy and human rights, but on the other hand, they are still engaging in activities that are against human rights and democracy, which is them selling weapons to the opposition party, which indicates once again that the formation is an obvious one. Following the World War II, this unjust international rule and order was established, which is now corrupt, which is now being demolished. It is the only way to declare bankruptcy for these international organizations. They have to admit that they are not functioning. Distinguished participants, the issues in the Eastern Mediterranean cannot be understood with a unilateral perspective because the existing perspectives are reiterating themselves. The rights resulting from international laws and the sensitivities that are sought by Turkey with delicate tools cannot be met with an understanding that is not recognizing international laws or the rights resulting from them. Any ally against this logic is doomed to fail. in the global pandemic that is making the whole world struggle, we should not divide and fall apart. Instead, we have to stand together, but the world is failing this test. The countries that continue with the old world habits today that are ugly are now pursuing a right to raise their voice in today's world. Following the World War II, the New World Order was an unfair and unjust one. Some countries only had liabilities, some countries only had rights and powers. For long years, this unfair system continued, but the world has changed today. Such parameters that on which the world stood still are now collapsing, but some countries are now delayed to acknowledge this fact. In the international law, in the new order, all the countries in the world have rights and powers, but also obligations and liabilities, and such a new world is not far from us. Deep economical unbalances or financial imbalances, financial unjusts and unfairness should not take us to pessimism. The population changes, the population movements, and the brutal attitude of the Western world that is obvious today, the double standards that are being applied by the Western world, and the disappointments, the rage, and heartbreaking, and the indignation that is resulting from that once again shows us that the world is changing and the change is near. Globalization, is not only for the finance of the world, but also for the cultures, for the people, for the diseases, for the culture as well, the virus as well, the happiness, the peace and lack of peace. Everything is being globalized today. In such a global world today, one person on the surface of the world, if not peaceful and happy, then none of us can be peaceful and happy. Considering this, we have to look forward and pursue the peace and welfare around everywhere in the world, and we have to establish a peaceful system that pursues the welfare of each and every one of the world's citizens. Distinguished participants, only the strategic resources and the legitimate rights over them cannot be enough to explain the Eastern Mediterranean issues for us. We are, as Turkey, not only pursuing the rights of ourselves, but also we would like to create a peaceful basis for all the parties to have their rights enjoyed. We do not pursue brutality or atrocity. We follow peace and welfare. Those who are seeking the other way cannot understand us. We are taking steps for gaining our righteous rights, and this is why in the face of our activities they are reacting improportionately. The international peace and welfare cannot occur unilaterally. It is a basis that is desired for everyone, for all the concerning parties. On the table, Turkey has the competence and enough doctrine to utter their rights resulting from international law. Today, we are having a valuable symposium organized by Ankara University, which is a clear indication of our position, of our attitude towards this issue. I believe distinguished participants in today's symposium will contribute with their valuable ideas and contributions, and hopefully today will overall contribute to opening new approaches for establishing an everlasting peace in the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean. While concluding my remarks, I once again would like to thank the President of Ankara University and his colleagues and his delegation and all the participants that contributed to the organization of this symposium. Thank you.
Sayın Türkiye Büyük
Thank you very much, distinguished Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. Please accept our thanks for your kind remarks. And would you please remain on the stage for a little while, because I would like to invite also onto the stage the President of Ankara University, who is going to submit you this plaque as a token of the day.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you. His Excellency, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. is also going to offer this gift to the president of Ankara University.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz efendim.
Thank you. His Excellency, the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, is leaving us because of his busy schedule. We would like to thank him for his auspices and also for his participation. Thank you very much, His Excellency. And soon we are going to start with the first session of the symposium titled An Overall Approach to the Eastern Mediterranean Issues. We will be continuing with our symposium. Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for participating.
Saygıdeğer konuklarımız,
Distinguished audience, we're continuing with our symposium, and the first session will be devoted to an overall approach to the Eastern Mediterranean issues. The session will be chaired by Mr. Akif Çağatay Kılıç, Member of Parliament representing Istanbul. He's also the chair of the Foreign Affairs Commission in the Parliament. Thank you for coming and joining. And distinguished speakers of this session. DEHUKAM Executive Board Chair, Professor Dr. Hakan Karan, will be speaking about where is the blue homeland and why is the blue homeland. Distinguished academician from Ankara University, Mr. Hakan Karan, thank you for coming and joining. And also, I would like to invite now Professor Dr. Sertaç Hami Başaran from Ankara University, Faculty of Political Sciences. He's also an academician, and he's going to speak about the latest state of play in the Eastern Mediterranean. Distinguished chair of the session, distinguished speakers, welcome, and I would like to give the floor to the chair of the session now, Mr. Çağatay Kılıç. Thank you. All distinguished guests and participants, I'd like to welcome you to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. And if you let me, in order to set an example, I am not going to take off my mask, so we will show that we are following the rule of 3, which is the mask, distancing, and hygiene, and we'll continue our event by following this rule. In fact, this symposium has brought us together today, and you see in its wording, there is also an important part, which is the potential role to be played by the Grand National Assembly of Turkey in handling the Eastern Mediterranean issues from a legal and political perspective. And if you let me, distinguished audience, I would like to make a short introduction, and then hopefully we will continue proceed with our presentations, lectures, and also we will have an exchange of views at the end of the speeches to be delivered. So if there is any one who would like to ask a question or give a comment, I hope we will have enough time to get your questions and comments. As it has just been mentioned by the Speaker of the Parliament today, we are going through an international order which is chaired by certain organizations just like UN, OSCE, UNESCO, and EU, and many other international organizations. They are there. Parliamentary diplomacy has a certain wing first of all, there are the ministries of foreign affairs, and they are creating a diplomatic order regarding the foreign affairs going on in and around the world. But together with this, I mean, besides, there is the parliamentary diplomacy. So these are different parliaments in different countries, and these parliaments also have and enjoy international contacts. And all these create a certain picture. Of course, the governments and international organizations demonstrate certain policies, and on my left-hand side, a plant just toppled down. It couldn't stand. Anyway, as regards international relations and as regards the relations between the parliamentarians, there is the parliamentary diplomacy. So parliamentary diplomacy is organizing all these relations and links. And in the parliamentary diplomacy, there are certain boards, and let me talk about some of them. So the European Council Parliamentary Council is an important board because the court is affiliated to this body, and members from 47 countries, in fact, select the members. I'm not trying to highlight the European Council Parliamentary Assembly. But, you know, the European Court of Human Rights is shown as the highest representative of human rights. And in fact, the members of this European Court of Human Rights are being elected by politicians. It shows the importance of the political relations. After touching upon this event, within the scope of international law, commercial law, sea law, maritime law, different economic zones are also determined. In the creation of these economic zones and in the management, in their creation, in the distribution of underground richnesses. They're all also decided by the international boards. Today we witness a certain phenomenon that was mentioned in the speech of the Speaker of the Parliament, so about the distribution or sharing of the richness, and also not about this, but in also other topics. We see that the approach is not based on equity. So when the globe was bipolar, maybe it was not so clear. It couldn't be seen so obviously. Maybe 40 years ago, we didn't have internet and also social media, and they were not among the communication means that were available 4 or 5 decades ago. So there wasn't any intensive communication chance or opportunities. So that was a different age. When you look at the proceedings, published proceedings of former summits, or when you see historical reports of certain negotiation meetings, in fact, you will see that there used to be a decision-making mechanism, a machine working behind closed doors, and that was the order that used to exist. And when your stance, when your position is against this, and when certain interests try to find their ways, and when you try to make international claims in such an atmosphere, then you will not possibly be welcome. Personally, I believe that, especially speaking for the Eastern Mediterranean region, we are going through a turmoil, a storm, and I think the basic elements are the ones that I have touched upon so far. Professor Dr. Hakan Karan is going to talk about Blue Homeland. He's going to deliver a speech titled "Where and Why Blue Homeland." This is what is written in the event program. So we will be discussing about the current situation of the law of sea, and this is also an important day today. In Turkey, we are organizing and having this symposium, and we also have as our guest the deputy minister. And probably during the day, we're going to get the news regarding the summit that is going on in the EU. And as it was mentioned by His Excellency Mr. President when he was setting out for Azerbaijan, we will continue walking in the way that we know is true. But of course, from the history, to create the history, there may be certain decisions to be made or not to be made, and they will coincide with this symposium. That's why the symposium is also an important event taking place on the specific day. Professor Karan, maybe you can start now. I know that your field of specialization is also maritime law. I understand this. Would you please briefly inform us about the law of sea as well? And also regarding certain issues, there may be certain questions on the minds of our participants. In fact, I'm trying to trigger the discussion. So regarding Greece and Greek Cypriot administration of southern Cyprus, there are different maps circulating around in international meetings, and also these two countries use these maps. They claim certain rights based on those circulating maps. Would you please give your overall considerations about this issue as well, and would you please share your opinions? Thank you, and you can take the microphone now.
Huzurunu saygıyla selam.
Distinguished audience, I'd like to start by giving my thanks firstly to the Speaker of the Turkish Parliament. This symposium is taking place under his auspices, and this is a very glamorous environment to have a symposium. Thank you, His Excellency. And I would like to thank to the President of Ankara University for pioneering this event and for encouraging us in order to have this event. And I would like to thank lastly to the deans of the law school and also the political sciences faculty of the university. Thank you for making this event possible. Today I will be talking about Blue Homeland, and I'll try to find answers to the question where and why Blue Homeland. This is the beginning session of an international symposium, and it will be like an introductory speech that I will deliver. And Mr. Chair already put certain questions for me. I'll try to and will try to find answers to these questions throughout the day. My co-panelists. Now I'll try to explain where is the Blue Homeland and why do we need a Blue Homeland. Let me start. Distinguished participants, Barbaros Hayrettin Pasha many years ago said that if you dominate the seas, then you will dominate the world. That is a huge anticipation. And within this framework, one should acknowledge that domination is different than sovereignty, and it's about the power that you have in order to operate in the seas. And esteemed Mustafa Kemal Atatürk also complements this statement, saying that this nation has a territory surrounded by seas in three directions, and its borders are delimited and demarked by its power and skills. In fact, when you say power and skills, it has certain dimensions. For example, financial, economic, commercial, scientific, technological, military, political, and legal. In all these aspects, your power and your capabilities must appear. They should appear in an integrated way. They're all interconnected. So your power and also your capabilities and their related aspects, they're all interconnected. In fact, Atatürk says that the maritime operations and power of Turkey must be achieved as soon as possible. And why did we fail in achieving this as soon as possible? Because there are certain peculiarities of the seas, and they make up the law of sea. For example, there are certain risks at the sea that are not comparable to the risks on the land. And at the sea, there are more risks. And can you just say that, okay, I will just sit back on the land and I will handle my deals? And what about the cost of investment? For example, on the land side, you can open up an enterprise with a few $1,000,000, and it will take maybe billions of dollars to make an investment at the sea or offshore. And you can say, why is it needed? And most importantly, our country is a peninsula, and still we have the tradition of an Asian state, Asian country that is entrapped on the land. When you look at our urban centers, you see that these are far away from the seas. And when you date back to the capitals of even the Ottoman state, you say that the land borders and demarcations are always taken into consideration when the urban towns were created. Ankara is an exceptional capital. It is a capital of a peninsula. It is at the heart and in the center of Anatolia. But when you look retrospectively, so the Seljuks arriving in the Anatolia and many other Turkish nations, in fact, avoided their maritime operations, and for many years that was an obstacle. And in fact, there is one reason. Cabotage, the sea operation rights, in fact, are one reason. And when Ottoman state was the strongest, in fact, these sea rights or coasting rights were granted to the foreigners. And when these rights were lost to the foreigners for many years, the Ottoman and Turkish couldn't show its interest in the seas. Blue homeland concept was invented in 2006. Black Sea and Maritime Security Symposium was organized in this year, and for the first time the term was used there in that event. And why Blue Homeland? Because there are certain economic reasons associated with this. We all know that 71% of the globe consists of seas, and in fact, when you compare land against the oceans, in fact, lands geographically are significantly smaller than the oceans. And in the seas and oceans for centuries, there were navigation activities. That was the case for the whole world. The countries are interconnected and neighbored by this aquatic environment. In fact, this environment is seen as the cheapest transportation medium, and since it is cheap, the goods of international commerce are transported by sea at a ratio of 90%. And think about Turkey and our trading, the top trading partners. These are mostly European states, and in the land transportation, Turkey ranks the first in Europe and ranks the third in the globe. We have the chance of accessing Europe by land and road. However, any commercial activity or any transportation of goods to go from Turkey to Europe, it takes place through sea at a ratio of 96%. It is preferred, I mean, the seaway is preferred because it is the cheapest. About the domination in the seas is we have always seen an increase throughout the history because it's cheap, it's possible to navigate. Today we say that we are neighbor with Greece, but if we are talking about a sea environment, then even the United States and Japan are our neighbors because we are on the opposite course of the ocean. So oceans make us all neighbors. About the operation of natural resources in the seas. In fact, that is related to the fisheries, and the mammals are also included. And 50% of the protein demand of the world come from the seas and oceans. So you should also have a presence in the oceans with the fisheries activities. Okay, we say that Turkey is a peninsula, and it also has an inner sea, which is the Marmara Sea. And that can be our limit for the fisheries. No, we should expand to all the oceans of the world. In fact, we have our open seas fishermen operating in the ends of African Sea. In fact, we know that the sources are being depleted in the seas, and the demands and needs of the human beings are endless, and the sources cannot suffice to cover all these needs. We have to open up to the seas because the sources on the land will not be enough, and you need state-of-the-art technology in order to open up to the seas. And the oil and natural gas sources in the seas are the most important energy resources. Towards the end of the 19th century in South California, in the Caspian Sea, and also in Maracaibo Lake, the first offshore oil rigs were constructed. They were made of wood. In 1960s, there were explorations in the Northern Sea for the first time in 1959 on the coast of the Netherlands, in 1965 on the coast of the United Kingdom, and in right after the exploration of oil and natural gas, unfortunately, 200 drill course didn't deliver any results. So you can not always get the results that you are looking for. That is a good example here. In 1969, we see a good example in Norway. A private company makes drilling in 32 locations, and finally one day the company believes that it will not be possible to discover anything. The company had already an agreement with the Norwegian government, and the company makes a 33rd drilling, and there comes the oil. So far, Norway used to be one of the poorest countries in Europe, and then it turned out to be the most technological company, a country of welfare, and also it is a leading company as regards oil exploration technology. So you should never give up. Today, in the oceans of the world, we see that 25% of oil and natural gas come from the oceans, but until 2040, that ratio will change, and at least 55% will be of sea origin, and 27% of this will be oil. The oil and natural gas reserves of Turkey, in fact, are hosted in our geography at a ratio of 70%, including both land and sea. And in the Eastern Mediterranean, the estimated amount of natural gas is 7 trillion cubic meters, and also 3 billion barrels of oil are estimated to be existing here in the Eastern Mediterranean. That can be less or more because we are thinking with the available technology of the day. But technology is advancing day by day, and every day it is possible to have a new drilling well somewhere. It is possible to use the new technology to do better drilling every day. And also there are renewable energy sources in the seas. For example, offshore wind turbines are available. When you go to China, you'll see that the seas and oceans are full of these wind turbines. It's also possible to use the tides in order to generate power. And also in the offshore, you can have solar farms. So the oceans also offer us and are ready to offer us an opportunity related to energy. Of course, it depends. I mean, the renewable energy depends on the technology, and it depends on the available technological means that we have. So we see Turkey. It has a certain jurisdiction in the seas and surrounded by 3 different seas, the Black Sea, Mediterranean, the Aegean. So we are located in such a geography that we are located on a transmission network. From the Middle East, from the Eastern Mediterranean, in fact, Turkey is located in an optimal location for transmission and transportation of the goods and sources. For example, for the transportation of Azerbaijan and natural gas, we are located optimally, and we already installed the infrastructure, and this is known by everybody. These were about economic reasons, and what about the political reasons? Why do you have to be a sailor state, and what are the political arguments to make you a sailor state? Naturally, inherently, Turkey cannot ignore the economic reasons that I have just listed. We cannot ignore them, but also some states have unilateral, illegitimate state operations. So this is disturbing us. And in fact, I will just give some examples, and more will be given by Professor Sertac and also the following speakers. They will give more details about these examples. I will just limit myself to some general remarks. Mr. Deputy and Mr. Chair, maybe you will get the answers to your questions with these examples. First of all, let me start by 2003. The Greek Spirit administration, in fact, it's not a state. We don't accept them as a state, but they had unilateral operations in 2003. First, they signed a deal with Egypt that was exclusive economic zone delimitation or demarcation deal. However, Eastern Mediterranean is a semi-closed sea, so the states have to show goodwill in terms of demarcation, and in terms of international law, the states are expected to cooperate. If the cooperation is not bilateral, and when you think about the circumstances in the region, in fact, there has already been some cooperation which was initiated in the Black Sea. It should be continuing in the Mediterranean, and all the stakeholders that are on the coast of the Mediterranean should come together. And if you, these two actors ignored all other actors, and they started to draft unilateral agreements. This is against international law. Of course, among these players, there are some actors with the highest distance to the eastern Mediterranean. And also there are some states with the longest coast on the Mediterranean, and Turkey is an example. So such deal was ignoring Turkey, and that was not enough. Although it was not valid, they had another deal with Lebanon, and then another deal with Israel. It was valid, and then when the licensing areas were defined, and it was still not enough, in 2011 drilling activities started. And we see similar examples and operations from the Greece. You see a map here, as it was understood from this map. Greece does it in two ways. Firstly, one university from Spain was ordered a map, either direct or indirect, and that map could never be thought as an academic piece of work. And this is how Greece is trying to shape and format its policy. In fact, a very small island with a very small surface area was given thousands of squares of kilometers of sea jurisdiction. So according to the law, there was no authorization of Greece to do this. That is an illegitimate map. And EU tried to recognize this map, and they just invented different practices in order to recognize this map. In fact, EU was actually saying that, okay, we're not recognizing this map, but we couldn't see the same in their practice. For example, Greece does not recognize Libya, and because of this lack of recognition to the south of Greece, they define many licensing areas, and this is also unilateral. What they need to do is to sit together with Libya, sit around one table, and then they need to work on a fair and equal solution. However, we don't know why, but the Greek Cypriot administration and Greece are following their unilateral activities. This is against international law, and this is illegitimate. We need to acknowledge this. And where is our blue homeland? When the term was first used in an event that was organized by the Turkish Navy, and actually, it was used to describe a country that was surrounded by 3 seas, because our problems were in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean. In the Black Sea, there was no problem for us because, thanks to our jurisdiction, according to our agreements, we didn't have any problems in the Black Sea. In fact, the blue homeland had a surface area of 462,000 square kilometers. So we need to define the blue homeland properly. We need to make this term meaningful. So this first, a country that will have a land territory and then a blue homeland. These have to go together. When you come to the blue homeland, in fact, this is not about your sovereignty, and this is about your sovereignty rights and powers. And also, there are some sea areas where you have that sovereignty power. Sovereignty consists of the legislative, executive, and the judiciary. And in fact, your sovereignty can be used in an integral way on the land, but it's not possible in the seas. Sometimes it may be possible, but when you speak about the oceans, in fact, it is about demarcations. And depending on the demarcation, your powers, your practical powers may change as well. In the way that we see, blue homeland is a place where the Republic of Turkey can exercise its power, and that can cover all the oceans of the world. So what are different sea environments? In fact, that will be mentioned in different speeches. I'll not go into the details of this question, but maybe I can give some example. For example, inner seas, coastal seas, and exclusive economic zones, open seas, fields. And according to the legal regime, also there are straits that are used for international navigation, but also, of course, these are subject to a different regime. Polar seas and other similar sea search and rescue areas. All these areas are subject to a different regime, and the coastal states are authorized separately and individually for all of these areas. So the matter is not as simple as it is for the land side. And what is the limit of the authorization or mandate of the Republic of Turkey? In fact, the Republic of Turkey can use its powers in all the oceans of the world. In the inner seas or coastal seas of another state may also be included in the list. But of course, this depends on the permission to be given by the other state, and also it depends on the necessary approval to be given by the international law. Since Turkey is a peninsula, it doesn't mean that this is automatically limited to the Black Sea, the Aegean, and the Mediterranean. But in Somali and the offshore parts, maybe with the permission, we can also do drilling and exploration activities. And most importantly, the petroleum and natural gas discovered can be our own property at a ratio of 50%. You see, this is not geographically our territory, but it can be our asset at a ratio of 50%. That is why blue homeland is all the oceans of the world. We have to understand this concept. What we are currently in the Eastern Mediterranean, because we have problems, we need to overcome these problems. But we need to look at the world map with an integral view. All around the global oceans, we have vessels navigating. These fly Turkish flag. Okay, this is not geographical. These are not geographical formations, but anyway, Turkey has its own sovereignty on its vessels. So no state can land on any commercial vessel of Turkey flying a Turkish vessel. That depends on the permission to be given by the Turkish state. How shall we do? We shall be a sailor state, and we will commit ourselves to our blue homeland. Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, His Excellency President of Turkey, says that we are aware of the importance of defending our blue homeland, and we show a strong will and strong belief to defend our rights and claims in the seas. In 2011, the Greek Cypriot administration started the first drilling activities in the Mediterranean, and they said, okay, we also need to be a sailor state, and we need to make certain investment, an extraordinary investment that I was referring to. And then we need to do the demarcation, and you can see the demarcation map on the screen. You will hear it from other professors as well. So first, we need to draw the borders. In order to be strong and powerful, you have to invest in the military, and in order to have presence in the oceans of the world, you need to have these kinds of vessels. This is the TCG Anadolu vessel that we have. Hopefully it will be launched in the ocean very soon, and thanks to this vessel and other similar vessels, we will be able to defend our economic interests around the world, and we will be able to create a willing and favorable environment for this. As a result of the decisions made in 2011, we built an exploration ship in Turkey with our national means, Oruç Reis vessel. In fact, that started with the initiatives of mining exploration agents of Turkey, and no other country wanted to fund and finance it. And then there was another vessel, Barbaros Hayrettin. So we are one of the rare countries that can have exploration activities in the seas, because these vessels cost millions of dollars. Then Fatih, Yavuz, Kanuni, drilling vessels, boats, got into our inventory. They cost billions of dollars. In any place of the world for drilling activities, we can have presence in oil exploration, and most importantly in the Black Sea. Maybe the volume does not seem to be enough. Maybe the volume will be enough for 5 years or 7 years. But think about the Norwegian case I just described. So this exploration in the Black Sea is very remarkable. The cabinet adopted the Turkish National Sea Research Strategy paper in 2014 in order to support scientific research in the seas. It assign certain roles to all public institutions and organizations, all public bodies. And in fact, one important research activity is, of course, legal research, because you can gain something in the field and it's possible that you lose it on the table. And in order not to lose on the table what you gain from the field, you need diplomacy. You need to give your legal arguments, and the foreign policy makers will need legal grounds and counseling to come. And with the recommendation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this strategy paper was adopted, and one clause was added in order to improve the research and exploration activities. Ministry of Foreign Affairs advised Ankara University to have a research center. That is why in Ankara University we have an international sea law research center. And in fact, this center of our university received support from all the engaged public institutions. Some activities were delayed. However, we got the support of all the public bodies. We have one most important role. The decision makers, political decision makers of the Republic of Turkey will be advised by our center in our symposium. In fact, we can give today one recommendation. In fact, our Professor Ismail says the following. Okay, we have one gap. That is the sea authorization areas law. We need this law, especially since 2011. Our state took every step necessary. Now it is necessary to have the legislation in 2010 with the initiative of the Ministry of Affairs and with the participation of all the bodies. A draft law was created for the maritime jurisdiction, maybe with some renovations, maybe with some updates, maybe with some amendments. We can make sure that this law is ratified in the parliament, so then it will gain its meaning. You know, parliament has one important role. In fact, legislation is its essential role. So this is needed. Parliament is needed to do this. In the constitution of Turkey, there is no provision regarding maritime jurisdiction. There is UN Convention on the Law of the Sea dated 1982. Turkey is not the party to that convention, so we have this vacuum. And the Turkish public institutions must understand their roles and powers and how and where to exercise them. We need this law on maritime jurisdiction. Thank you. Thank you for your interest and patience.
Evet, Hakan hocamıza teşekkür
We would like to thank our first speaker, Professor Hakan Karan. I would like to ask the assistants to open the windows for 5 minutes to get some fresh air inside. I think it's better to get some air circulation. Thank you. Well, after the remarks of Professor Hakan Karan, now I would like to invite our second speaker, Professor Sertaç Hami Başaran, to floor. Or if you like, you can also stay there and present from wherever you are sitting. Distinguished Chair, distinguished members of the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, today I will be sharing my ideas, my views about the Eastern Mediterranean with you. It is such a pleasure for me to be here with you today, and I would like to thank the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey and the President, the Rector of Ankara University for organizing this beautiful symposium. Here's my presentation. You can see on the slides, and I would like to touch upon 3 main points during my presentation. Well, first of all, I would like to talk about the illegal position that is forced upon Turkey by Greece and by the Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus, and then I will be talking about the continental shelf agreement signed between Turkey and Libya and the following developments, and then I will be talking about the delimitation agreement that is desired to be signed between the Foreign Affairs Minister Dendias, the Minister of Greece, and the GCASC, Greek Cypriot Administration of Southern Cyprus. The minister made a statement a while ago, and I would like to quote. He says that we would like to make a delimitation agreement with the Greek Cypriot Administration of Southern Cyprus. He said we are negotiating with the Greek Cypriots to make this agreement. Mediterranean Sea is a semi-enclosed sea, and this is taken from an international bureaucracy journal with the Libya Gourmet, and born in Tunisia, creates two ends of a line, and on the eastern part of this line you see the Mediterranean Sea, the eastern Mediterranean Sea actually, but we are focusing on even further eastern part of Mediterranean Sea that is starting with the coast of Libya, or from the eastern coast of Libya, comes the real eastern Mediterranean part that we are concentrating on. The Navigation and Hydrography Department of us presents this map for the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean Sea boundaries, which is presented to the International Hydrography Journal, but it was not binding since the correspondence was not a diplomatic one. The problem in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea is actually related to the sharing of hydrocarbon reserves in the seabed of the Eastern Mediterranean. Well, if you ask me, the maritime jurisdiction, the term, appears to be the problem in the Eastern Mediterranean. However, the real problem is actually the sharing of the resources, the hydrocarbon resources. And another thing is that, yes, everyone, first of all, would like to claim the sovereignty rights over the resources in the seabed of Mediterranean Sea, Eastern Mediterranean Sea. But there's another dimension to the issue, which is how the energy coming from hydrocarbon resources in the region will be introduced to the market. At this point, I would like to talk about a target for Turkey regarding Eastern Mediterranean Sea. On one hand, Turkey should preserve its continental shelf, and Turkey should obtain and have claims over the resources that fall within our maritime jurisdiction and continental shelf. And plus, we, if necessary, should help TRNC, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, for enjoying their international rights as well. And Turkey should be the channel for the introduction of such resources into the energy market. Now, if you allow me, first of all, I would like to share the latest declaration of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey to the United Nations. Maybe this is not the latest, but this is the main declaration that I would like to base my work on. There are some others as well, but this is the initiation of my work. The Minister of Foreign Affairs presented the continental shelf and the boundaries, the maritime boundaries of Turkey to the United Nations. This is a correspondence, an official letter, but actually a diplomatic note, to be frank, and this creates the backbone of my hypothesis, especially the turquoise-colored part on this map. This will be the basis of my presentation. As you can see, the Greek Cypriot Administration of Southern Cyprus, based on the middle lines, creates such a large continental shelf and claims even larger exclusive economic zone, EEZ. And they declared, the Greek Cypriot Administration of Southern Cyprus declared an EEZ. And we have continental shelf. We are not claiming to be entitled to an EEZ. On the other hand, Greece, also considering Rhodes and Mace Islands, declared the dark blue area, and they declared and claimed rights over the dark blue area. They continue their position in this regard. And these claims altogether can be seen here on the famous map. Professor Viveo, who was a human geography expert, was the person who prepared this map. And he was an expert for maritime areas as well. Professor Vivero created this map, which was published in 2004. Back in 1999, he shared a similar map on a published book, as we know, and maybe it dates back even further ago. Prescott, in 1985, published a very, very similar map to this one. So both of those experts were geography specialists. I can't remember which one out of the two, but one of them made a statement and said, this map is not a legal map. As an expert of geography, we prepared this map based on common and shared rights. So I made certain researches, and not long ago, soon enough, we plan to organize a meeting under our faculty about these matters as well in the near future. Now I would like to go into further details. Here, I will try to make the claims of Greece and Greek Cypriot transparent. Let's start from the west. Mace Island is such a small island. I don't know if you can even see it on the map. It's such a small, tiny island based on the middle lines, equidistant lines. Greece claims rights for Rhodes, Kassos, and Karpathos islands. The Greece does this. According to Article 121 of UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. But there is one thing that I would like to say at this point. Turkey is not a party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And this cannot be a case law or jurisprudence that is to be forced on Turkey, because the Turkish delegation explicitly objected against Article 121 of UNCLOS. Because Article 121 is not valid for delimitation rights in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. The continental shelf rights of various countries are the articles that are related to the delimitation, and equity principles apply for the identification of the continental shelves of the countries, and only based on equity and equitability principles one country's continental shelf can be identified. This goes for Article 121 as well. It is not how Greece interprets this. It is not a jurisprudence. It is not an international customary law, which is not the interpretation of this article. And there is another point which I would like to underline. Equidistant lines are just a method for drawing lines, only if they serve to the equity principles. They are not the fundamental prerequisites for continental shelf identification. Finally, as you can see on this presentation, delimitation is not on a limited area, both from the perspective of Greece and also from the perspective of Cyprus. The area is so large, you can see on the map. I think I still have time. I would like to say a few more things before I conclude. Our dispute with Greece overall is subject to maritime laws by 100%. This is a fact. This is the first dimension of the Eastern Mediterranean issues. The second dimension is the green area between the yellow and turquoise regions. That green part is the disputed area between the Greek Cypriot administration and Turkey, and the same principles are valid for this part as well, but to a certain level, Cyprus issues are also influential at this point. The third dimension of the disputes are related to the yellow area that you can see on the map. We don't have a coastline facing this yellow area. However, the yellow area concerns the Turkish Cypriots and the rights of TRNC citizens, and we are the guarantor of such rights in Cyprus. We are the guarantor and guaranteeing party. And there is a note, diplomatic note issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about this as well. Between Israel and Greek Cypriot administration, an agreement was signed, and we were protesting that with issuing a diplomatic note, and we officially, via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, declared this opposition, which is also included in the United Nations documents. Greek Cypriot administration of the Southern Cyprus unilaterally make agreements and allow certain private companies operate on certain areas with licenses, but these are altogether illegal activities. I will present some of those in a minute, but let me take one more step further. For Turkey to be forced to agree to this map, the median lines, which are not based on law, the red lines, I mean, that you can see, must be forced into Turkey to make Turkey agree on these red lines. The Greek Cypriots and the Greece force these red lines, these median lines, on us, and we object to them. But the neighbors are not giving up on their claims. What are they doing? They are trying to complete other sections, other parts of the map. They are trying to draw lines and boundaries on other sections of this map. And for this purpose, Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus drew a line by signing a delimitation agreement with Egypt. And this is the line that you can see. This is the line resulting from that agreement. And I have the lines that are the boundaries, I mean, that have been drawn with other delimitation agreements, but we don't have time to share all of them. This is the very first delimitation agreement result, so I would like to share that with you as an example. This is the line. Here is the line. Here is the delimitation agreement, and the most important part of the agreement is here, which shows the coordinates of the line, and I have pinned these coordinates on my map, and this is a little to the southern part of the line, which is to the disadvantage of Egypt. But to be frank, this is not the only part of the agreement that is to the disadvantage of Egypt. There are even further serious issue with more gravitude. But here's what I would like to show you. Again, from the agreement. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the protesting diplomatic note issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey against the delimitation agreement signed by Greek Cypriot administration on Egypt. And I would like to pay my respect to those who have drafted this text. It is such an important letter indicating the objection of Turkey against the delimitation agreement. Other notes were also issued. For example, we also issued a note stating that Eastern Mediterranean Sea is a semi-enclosed sea. Therefore, without the existence of Turkey or without the gravity of Turkey, no cooperation can be made, no delimitation can be made, or no line can be drawn. We issued other other notes as well, but this is the very main note. We issued that on the southern part of 36 to 18 degrees longitude, Turkey claims rights, and no issue, no agreement, and no activity can be done or taken on the northern part of this longitude, as we indicated in our diplomatic notes. Here you can see the pinned coordinates based on the previous delimitation agreement, and you can see how the line is stayed on the southern part, which is to the disadvantage of Egypt. Egypt loses more. Based on this agreement, Egypt has more losses. Well, you can't see my arrow, I think, on the presentation. I don't know if you can see my arrow. On the very bottom part of the map, you see an area surrounded by red lines, which is at the size of Cyprus Island, by the way. This is the area that Egypt lost. So if Egypt did not sign an agreement with the Greek Cypriots but signed an agreement with Turkey, then they would not have lost this area. I will talk about the western part in a little more detailed manner because there's a special situation in the western part that is very important for my presentation. Let's talk about the losses of Egypt on the western part. This latest triangle on the left side is the agreement between Greece and Egypt. By making this agreement, Greece have had this area and Egypt lost this area to the advantage of Greece. I will come to the details later. Then comes the agreement between the Greek Cypriot administration and Lebanon. We protested against this agreement with the Lebanon, and upon that, the parliament of Lebanon did not ratify this agreement. Following that, the Greek Cypriot administration declared the blocks that you can see on the map. When Papadopoulos was declaring these blocks, the Greek Cypriot administration also declared the fundamental principle of the strategy that has been adopted by them against Turkey. The Papadopoulos said that with these blocks, we will issue licenses to great companies of powerful countries, and with their power behind us, we will fight against Turkey, they said. And today, they march towards this direction. As you can see, in the pink-colored area, these blocks have caused an encroachment. And on the official gazette, we made necessary publications, and with the Ostebrot sheep, we conducted a seismic research in this area. Continental shelf-related rights are the sovereign rights, which means that sovereignty rights can only be enjoyed by the littoral states, the coastal states, and without the consent and permission of the littoral states, it's not possible for the sovereign rights on the continental shelf of a country to be enjoyed by a third party. If a license is being issued by a government on a certain continental shelf, then it means that they are claiming rights on that area. So by giving licenses and by contracting that seismic research ship in this area, we immediately declared that we own this area, we own this maritime area, and we enjoyed our sovereignty rights in our continental shelf for this area. Here you see the border with Israel. Well, this is a little early to show you because there was another incident in between, but here you see a point, red point, which is the drilling point of Noble Energy Company. This drilling was objected by us, and we made initiatives to make it stop. The TRNC, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, made offers to the Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus, and they said that you should not engage in such activities alone. We should do it together. If possible, we can form a commission, a committee for mutual decisions. And the TRNC actually repeated such suggestions almost 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. It was not one single suggestion, it was repeated. So in order to be able to stop the drilling, we said, if you do not stop the drilling activities, we, as the TRNC, will draw a line on the northern part. So they did not stop the drilling, and Turkey and TRNC drew a northern line. Here you can see that. This line was drawn. A demarcation, if you will. And I would like to talk about the special status of this line. Let me zoom in a little bit. You know Cyprus? Well, the mouse is not visible on the presentation, unfortunately. I cannot pinpoint a certain location, but on the very western part of the island, you see a territory right here that belongs to TRNC. However, on both sides of this point, for those who may not know this, if you allow me, I would like to point with my finger. Right here. I mean, I tried the using of the pointer, but the screen is actually omitting the dot created by the pointer, so I cannot show it. Okay, I will keep this in mind for next time. So on both sides, on both eastern and western parts of this Turkish territory, there is the territory that belonged to Greek Cypriot administration. But still, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and the Republic of Turkey drew a line here. This line is in relation to the Cyprus issue. The Greek Cypriots, based on their own initiatives, have expanded the Cyprus issue to the maritime areas, and we warned them so many times. We told them not to do it, but they still did it. They still provocated, and we unilaterally, with the TRNC, drew this line based on the principle of reciprocity, retaliation principle, actually, which is a great part of international law, against the unilateral initiatives of the Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus, because they were engaging in unilateral activities, and against that comes the basis for TRNC to engage in unilateral activities. The Turkish and Greek Cypriots all around this Cyprus island are entitled to same level of rights, and based on this principle we have drawn this northern line, based on, as I said earlier, the reciprocity principle in the international law. And here you can see the official coordinates of the line, and this is the declaration of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey, numbered 216. You can read this, and the essence of this declaration will create a basis for my talk, because my talk is based on also this declaration. But there's another point to this declaration which I would like to mention. The declaration indicates that we have drawn only one portion, one section of the boundary, which means that the line can continue towards other lines as well. So the drilling did not stop, and after that, Turkish Petroleum Corporation was given licenses by the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus for this area that I indicated. So far, I have always talked about the unilateral activities engaged by the Southern Cyprus, but I did not show them here. It was not just one drilling area opened by Noble Energy Company. Here, there's another file which I would like to share. Let me show you. the Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus issues licenses for seismic research on the southern part of Cyprus Island. Here you see them, all of them, one by one. The seismic researches. And now let me count the drilling activities, because so far I showed the seismic research, the surveys, and here you can see the drilling activities. And these are our activities, our drilling and survey activities. I have taken this slide from the presentation of Mr. Shaika RGS. We only started these activities in 2018. This crisis in the Eastern Mediterranean was not happening in the blink of an eye years ago. It took years. Turkey gave warnings so many times. We have done so much so far to solve this issue, but then we came to such a point that now TRNC is taking certain initiatives based on the principle of reciprocity in the international law. And since we are not recognizing the Greek Cypriot administration of Southern Cyprus, we are not recognizing the activities of the Southern Cyprus, but they do this, and against that, again based on the principle of reciprocity, TRNC issued licenses for Turkish Petroleum to engage in seismic research, survey, and drilling activities. While all these things were happening, we drew this red line between us, Turkey, and Libya, based on the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Republic of Turkey and the Government of the National Accord, the State of Libya, on delimitation of the maritime jurisdiction areas in the Mediterranean. Here you can see the MOU. The coordinates of the line are also written, but it's not really readable or visible. I mean, in between 2 points the line was drawn, and the coordinates are indicated in the Memorandum of Understanding. Let me include Libya here, and then here you see the continental shelf in light green on the left side that belong to Libya. And this line is a blockage for western extension of the hands of Greece, and this stops the encroachment of the rights of Libya. This line actually means that Greece should withdraw in the western part, as it should be. We drew this line, and then we issued a license to Oruç Reis survey and research ship within our own continental shelf according to the drawn delimitation, and the issued license was implemented. It was put into practice. When this was being done, we heard that Greece and Egypt made an agreement. I still don't possess the official agreement, official documents, but I received certain coordinates, the information of the coordinates of that Greek-Egyptian agreement, and let me apply those coordinates from their agreement on the same map as well. Here you see the delimitation line drawn by Greece and Egypt, starting from the far west, from the western end. Let's evaluate. It starts from the longitude of 26 degrees, the line starts, and if you want me to be frank, this is also an encroachment of the rights of Libya. Let me provide some more details with you, and then the map will be striking. The line ends on the 28-degree longitude. Which means that Greece gave up its claims for the rights for Mace Island. If Greece was still pursuing its claims for the rights related to Mace Island, then the line was supposed to continue towards eastern part of the map up until the longitude of 30 degree. However, it ends on the 28th degree longitude, not continuing up till 30th degree. So based on this information as well, I would like to talk about the maritime jurisdiction and the continental shelf and exclusive economic zone lines that should belong to Egypt. I already talked about how Egypt lost because of the agreement it made with Greek Cypriot administration, and with the agreement they made with Greece. Here you see a very dark blue triangle. Is the pointer visible on the slide? Oh, okay, it's visible. Great. This very dark blue triangle. Because of the agreement between Egypt and Greece, this dark blue triangle is lost to the advantage of Greece, and Egypt abandoned this area. Let me go into further details. Okay, let me present this. Let me show you this. If Greece and Egypt made a real agreement and drove the line based on the median line, the equidistant line, the line would be to the southern to cover the scattered, the shaded region as well, to cover the Kassos and Karpatros as well. So it means that not all islands are entitled to continental shelves. Greece, by signing this agreement, declares that they gave up their claims for the rights that they claim to be resulting from Mace Island. There are serious legal grounds for why the claimed rights should be given up for Mace Island, but I will not go into details of such legal grounds. There are other things that I would like to underline. They did not just gave up their claims resulting from the equidistance line, but they also gave up the rights resulting from the Rhodes Island by giving semi-effect, by recognizing semi-effect for Rhodes rather than presenting full effect. This is Kassos Karpathos Islands. Here you see two of them. And for the delimitation of Kassos and Karpathos Islands, Greece again gave up the idea of median line. So Greece, with this agreement that it made with Egypt, gave up all its claims for the rights that they are forcing upon Turkey. The same goes for Crete. Here you see the line is on 26th longitude. If the median line was drawn based on Mace Island, then this line would be here, but it is to the northern of that. Let me come back to another important issue for us. This white shaded line is not drawn. I mean, this appears to be a little in non-conformity, but I also personally worked on that line. And as I said earlier, we declared our continental shelf to the United Nations, which is, I think, a little bit shifting towards the eastern part of this line. Okay, whatever. Let me come back to the issue. Let me remove the research area of Oruç Reis ship. This white line is not drawn. Greece would love to draw this line with Egypt. This line was the only way for providing continental shelf to Mace Island, but Egypt did not agree to it. And this white line is not a boundary, okay, but Egypt has continental shelf on the lower part of that white line, and that continental shelf line should be drawn for Egypt. Who will do that? This should be considered Can this line be drawn in Turkey? This is an important question. Is there an opportunity that Turkey can benefit from at this point? We should question. If that's the case to follow, then I believe there are two things to pay attention. The first is that we have to underline an agreement made with Egypt does not guarantee this dark blue triangle area. We won't recognize. Similarly, we are protesting this line on the lower part, which is the line drawn by Egypt and the Greek Cypriot administration. We again have to underline that that line won't be recognized by us as well. Now let me take one step further. Greece made certain sacrifices, and they did it for abolishing the delimitation agreement made between Turkey and Libya. It was also a wrongful doing. Maritime law has certain laws for delimitation, and there's another loss based on those rules. The previously signed delimitation agreements shall be taken into consideration. So Greece is not recognizing or acknowledging the delimitation agreement between Libya and Turkey, and on the contrary, they take actions against it, and they continue to force Meis Island on Turkey. Here you can see the white shaded area, which symbolizes Greece's efforts accordingly. Let me take one step further. They try to do this. In a lighter shade of blue, what I'm trying to show with white lines, here you see the continental shelf line of Meis Island claimed by Greece. Military operations can be conducted, drills can be conducted, military drills can be conducted offshore, in offshore areas. But if a license has already been issued and if that license is in practice, then military drills cannot be operated on that area. This is what they did. What I'm saying is that Greece made concessions to Egypt, and in order to overcome those, these are the activities that Greece is engaging into. The response of Turkey against this was crystal clear. We continue issuing our licenses. We said and we continued issuing our licenses. But there is one thing that drew my attention. Here you see the line ends on the 28th degree of longitude, and our seismic research starts on the same longitude, on 28th degree. Therefore, I made into further details and made research about this, and I realized there's another license area issued by Turkey. Two different license areas were published on the official gazette. I actually merged the two license areas, and this map was created as a result. Let me move that aside. So if that map taken from the official gazette and applied here, this map comes up, and this also ends on the 28th degree longitude. This is the very first license we issued to Navtex, and these are the following Navtex calls that we issued. And this drew my attention to a map circulating on the internet. Let me also share that with you. And let me zoom in. This line here is the line declared to be in conformity with the international law. But this brings me to the sovereignty applications we have on the northern part of, in the western part of the 28 degree longitude. Here is the strongest line that we drew for our rights, which is also declared to the United Nations, which was also recognized by the United Nations. I dug deeper. I went into further research, and I realized we have important practices here. Here you see a slide taken from a high-level representative of the Foreign Affairs Ministry and his presentation. Here you see the Turkish Petroleum Corporation and the licenses given to that company. But there is even more, even before that. Let's go back into further history and back. This is from 2007 or 8, if I'm not mistaken. 9 Eylül University made research here, which extends until Crete Island. And on these 3 points, foreign-flagged research ships were escorted out of the zone with the claims that area belongs to us. For example, a ship called Thetis was removed from this area right here. And Met Surveyor, which is the name of another ship, was also removed from this area. And 2 times in a row, Odi Refiner, another ship, was removed twice. Odin Refiner ship was later on used for the research for the construction of a pipeline. They asked for a license from us, and we opened a Navtex call, and we declared that the area belongs to continental shelf of the Republic of Turkey, which was towards the western part of the longitude of 28 degrees, which is the dark blue shaded area. There's another place which I did not talk about, the green, small green parts at the top of the map. Meton, another foreign research ship, again, was told that this area belonged to our continental shelf, and another Navtex call was issued. On the western part of 28-degree longitude, we have strong practices, we have strong implementations. I can see that as I talked about them so far. But after all these research that I have done, what I think is the following, starting with roads, the Knossos, Karpathos Islands, and even this part of the Crete Island, I mean the islands in general, should be the center of our concentration. It should be the focusing point for us. I think we should give our weight and apply our weight on these islands area. Oh, when all these things were happening, Dendias made a statement. And here you see the line that Dendias, the foreign minister of Greece, talked about. He says, the foreign minister says, as Greece, we will draw this line with Greek Cyprus. I mean, he doesn't says the southern Cyprus, but it's what we say. And in a way, this line is considered to be supporting the agreement between Greece and Egypt, and it will reject the agreement between Libya and Turkey, but overall it will extend towards east. So the foreign minister of Greece is trying to revitalize this map. This is what he is exerting efforts for. What would happen if that were to be true? Then this map would appear, and on the yellow area, Cyprus, the southern Cyprus, would be entitled to claim certain rights. This is what the minister is claiming. Now, I would like to go back to the line drawn between Turkey and TR&C. The foreign minister of Turkey says that we drove this line because of the equal rights that northern Turkish Cypriots are entitled to, as much as the southern Cyprus, the Greek Cypriots of the southern Cyprus are entitled to. And he is very much right. And he says this is only one portion of the line, which means that the line can continue on different sections. And the foreign minister of Turkey made another statement. There's a note issued for that, but let me talk about it first. I can show the documents later on. The minister, foreign minister of Turkey, says that the line on the western part of Cyprus can only be drawn after a collective solution. Again, the ministry is very right. Coming back to my assessment, during the collective negotiations, when the Greek Cypriots are cornered, they generate various excuses. For example, Barbaros Hayrettin Pasha, the Barbarossa, if you will, conducted a research. This is a ship, of course, and a Turkish frigate conducted a research, and they said, why did this frigate conduct this research? We are leaving the table, they said. I think the foreign ministry of the Republic of Turkey said that they will draw the Western line after a collective solution, then they were right to do so because they do not want the Greek Cypriots to escape and run from the table. Of course, I can only see one portion of the big picture. The perspective of the ministry should be larger, and they might be more knowledgeable about the issue. But today, collective solution is not possible. If there to be a collective bargaining or a collective negotiation, it will be for a division only. For another 50 years, or a pursuit of federation won't be possible. This is the statement of the officials that are experts in this field, and I agree with them. Therefore, I personally think that since collective negotiation for a solution is not possible, and since I think now we talk about the recognition of two nations in Cyprus, then the statement of Turkey for drawing this line following a collective bargaining or collective negotiation for a solution is no longer on the table. It's not possible. If a collective negotiation won't be possible, then drawing a line on the western part of the island after a collective negotiation won't also be possible. Here you can see the map. This is the line that we draw on the northern part of Cyprus. And this is the declaration of the ministry stating that only one portion of the line or boundary has been drawn so far. This is the line. This is the line. Let me show you the diplomatic note issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey. I think they are very right. They say, as far as the delimitation of the continental shelf in the west of the island of Cyprus is concerned, it should be taken into account that it is related to the comprehensive settlement of Cyprus question. I think it is an accessible issue. For example, the authority of TRNC to draw this line result from and stem from constitution and related agreements. Same goes for the licenses as well. Let me reiterate. The unilateral initiatives of the Southern Cyprus created the legitimate basis for the unilateral initiatives that will be taken by Turkey. Now, let me show you how this line can continue and what kind of results can be taken from it.
So this line that you see in the dashed line, if it is drawn, then the chart will be changed into this, and at least it will contribute to the creation of this chart. I would like to thank you for your interest and patience. The professor, that was a profound and comprehensive speech. I would like to thank you for this. We'll listen to both professors, and after these two speeches delivered, we see that this topic, I prefer calling it an issue or a topic, but the Greek Cypriots and the Greece administration call it the problem. So I think this is seen by all the world. for various reasons, for different national reasons. In fact, the different states of the world, in fact, refrain from saying that the claims of the Greek Cypriots and Greece do not have any legal basis. This is obvious, but I think we will still have to exert more efforts in order to prove this. So, distinguished members of the Parliament, distinguished academicians and participants who are here in the hall with us today, do you have any questions? I think there is another question from the audience. It is 12 o'clock. I think we're supposed to give a lunch break now, according to our schedule, and then we will convene again at 2 p.m. Then, please take the microphone in order to announce the end of the first half of the day. But before you do so, I would like to thank the two speakers of this session. I know that the Parliament team is still here with us. Maybe it will be useful to include these proceedings in the collected works of the Parliament. So, the distinguished member of the Parliament and also distinguished participants, in fact, they also acknowledged this need. They can be included in the compilation. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable inputs and contributions. So, Ankara University President, Professor Dr. Mr. Necdet Ünüvar, would you please come onto the stage in order to deliver these gifts to the speakers of the session? Istanbul Deputy Mr. Akif Çağatay Kılıç, the head of the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Turkish Parliament, please kindly receive the first plaque. Thank you. Ankara University the Hukam Executive Board Chair, Mr. Hakan Karan, please. Thank you. And Professor Dr. Sertaç Hami Başaran, Ankara University Faculty of Political Sciences. Thank you very much. Distinguished audience, at 12:30, we're going to have the lunch break. But before we go to the break, we'd like to get a family picture. Let's be all together in this frame, together with the president of the university.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz efendim.
Thank you. Now, all the guests are invited to the lunch, which will be served at 12:30. It will be served downstairs at 12:30. The preparations have already been completed. You are kindly invited to the lunch. The symposium will start again at 2 p.m. and the title of the next session will be Law and Politics in the Eastern Mediterranean. Thank you